I was looking at the State of the Union address, and most everything else was just window dressing. You know, the same. You know, you can literally lay over the speech that he gave 4 years ago, and just lay it right over this one. It's basically the same thing. It's a whole lot of empty promises, a whole lot of things that he knows he can't achieve, but it makes you feel good. But the difference now, I think, is that you've had the time to address a lot of these problems, and no one believes you any longer. Not even your staunch supporters believe you. Black people are starting to abandon Obama because they're seeing that it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all window dressing. He's like an empty suit. He's only active when it comes time that it's something that he personally wants to further his personal power. That is something that he'll actually push, and you'll actually see that he'll commit action to things like that. But besides everything else, like I said, everything else was window dressing. One thing did stand out, and there was one particular thing that stood out, and that was this new plan that he's looking to implement called the MyRA, which the acronym, I guess, stands for My IRA, My Individual Retirement Account. And it's funny with the play on words, you know, My IRA, making you believe that it's actually yours and you're actually in control of it. What they're actually doing is they're going to start with government workers. And those government workers, instead of having a 401k where you have like a basket of funds that you can invest in, you know, parts of, you know, Fortune 500 company, blue chips, companies, technology companies, textile, oil, all these kind of things, you know, and they always tell you to diversify your portfolio because this way, when one sector goes down, another sector goes up. It's very rare that all the sectors go down at the same time. So that's why they tell you to try to spread it out over multiple sectors to, I guess, to counteract the risk of one sector just going down and you losing everything. But what's happening is with this MyRA, it's actually guiding people away from that model and then guiding them into buying treasury bonds. And treasury bonds are the citizens' way of funding the government for capital projects, and this way they create treasury bonds. As a result, they create dollars for those treasury bonds, and that's one way that money is actually created. But what's happened, what he won't tell you, or what they won't tell you, is that just recently, China was one of the biggest buyers of the United States treasury bonds. And they recently announced that they are no longer going to, they're no longer going to buy treasury bonds because they don't see it that buying treasury bonds, the U.S. treasury bonds, in fact, are in their nation's best interest, because they're starting to see that all of the runaway spending that's happening in this government, both Republicans and Democrats, and please don't come to me with this, oh, you know, you sound like a Republican. They both do it. One does it overtly, one does it covertly. One does it in your face, the other one says that they're doing it for you. And either way, you got to pay it back. So either way, I have no affiliation or no loyalty to either party. I think they're both equally full of shit. But my point in getting to this is, China no longer will buy the treasury bonds. And this is one way that countries such as the United States actually export their inflation. So this way, now since these other countries are not buying the bonds, you had China, you had Japan, you had a lot of countries in Europe, Germany, a lot of these countries were buying US treasury bonds. And that, in fact, props up the the U.S. government to be able to continue spending. This is what this whole debt ceiling thing is about. Not being able to spend money that you don't have. So now, since the Chinese have stopped buying the treasury bonds, and they were the largest buyers of treasury bonds, then the Fed steps in, and the Fed has been buying up and funneling money into the treasury market at the tune of $85 billion per month. And this is just the official number. And usually, whatever the official number is, the actual number is a lot higher. So they just recently announced that they were going to be tapering and cutting it down from 85 billion down to 75 billion per month, which is still a lot of money to be creating out of thin air. But this has been shown to, because they're claiming that unemployment is better now. The unemployment rate has gone down. But what they don't tell you is that the only reason that it's gone down is because people who have exhausted their unemployment insurance get kicked off of receiving unemployment benefits, still haven't found a job, but technically now they're no longer on the list, so they're no longer counted as being unemployed. So the numbers are a lot worse than a lot of people are saying, than most people know. So as a result of them tapering, now they're looking around to see what other sucker they can find to buy into this whole treasury bond market. Other countries are not buying the treasuries anymore, and they're not buying it for a reason, because the treasury bonds are worthless. If the United States was not having all of these other foreign countries buy these treasury bonds, they'd have to live on a budget. Just like anyone else, they would have to live on a budget. How is it that when in everyday life, you can't spend more money than you have in everyday life? How is it that a government can actually spend multitudes percentages over what they actually produce, and they can actually spend it? Spending money they don't have, that's an impracticality. It doesn't work in real life, and it doesn't work in government. They just give you the illusion that it can work. And their way of paying this back is by slapping on more and more debt onto the country's deficit. And the next generation, people who aren't even born yet, are going to be on the hook for this money that they're spending now. They're spending tomorrow's money for today's prosperity. They're spending money that the unborn hasn't even earned yet to live better now. But anyway, to get back to my point, this is just a test model. When they start guiding government workers into making it seem more palatable to buy these treasury bonds, and giving you more incentives to buy these treasury bonds. Because at that point, if the government decides to just default on the payment, they can't even pay their bills now. So if they decide to default on their obligations to their citizens, what the fuck are you gonna do? Sue them? They have all the guns. They have all the laws. They make all the laws. They can enforce it with the guns. They have the right to lock your ass up. So why would you invest in that? Why would anybody invest in that? It seems like, you're probably better off just putting your money under the mattress. Putting it in the bank. Look what you're getting for interest rate in the bank. It's under 1%. It's like 0.83%, 0.85%. And the inflation rate is going up at least 8 times that. The next time you go to the supermarket, and chicken was, $1.39 a pound, okay, today, and and you go next week, and it's $1.59 a pound. Do the math on how much inflation that is. How much more it's going to cost you to buy that same meat to make your meal. And all they're giving you is 0.85% over a period of a year. So they're literally stealing the value of your money through inflation and giving you below what the inflation rate actually is. So you're actually losing money leaving it in the bank. So when they pull the plug on this whole thing and they get enough suckers to come into this, buying this this MyRA, and they pull the plug on it and they say, oh, well, hey, we spent all the money, we have no money to pay you back, but hey, but we spent it on you, so you really can't complain. We spent this money on you and it was for the best. Fools rush in. People who don't do their homework rush in to these new programs without knowing what the details are. The devils are in the details. The devil is in the details. And once you realize that other countries have already wised up and cut the United States off from lending the money, why would you lend the money? If they didn't pay them back, what makes you think they're going to pay you back? These other countries have guns, they have armies, they have everything else, and the United States basically said, fuck you, we're not paying you back. What makes you think they're going to pay you back? Anything and everything that I've seen this country government manage someone's money, they've screwed it up. And in one of my following videos, I'm going to point out how in the past Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security, how it started off as being a good idea and turned out to be the disaster that it is today. But I'll point that out in some of my future videos. And I'm out.